Said to me this morning about Tyrese Maxey.
Tyrese Maxey has to be in the conversation for future face of the league. Who have we been talking about? Anthony Edwards. People have talked about Victor Wembanyama. All of that is great. Yeah, Chet. There are so many young guys, and that's great. Tyrese Maxey has to be in the conversation. 50-point performances, people weren't talking about him potentially being the face of the league. This performance, when they needed it, what do you say after the game? Mandatory. This performance in the Garden, where you put the team on his back, the fourth quarter performance, especially with the way Embiid struggled and the way Tyrese Maxey stepped up, he has to be in the conversation for face of the league, period.
Tyrese Maxey had the kind of moment last night that if they come back and win this series, we will talk about forever. That will be the Maxey game forever if they come back and win this.
Without question. And I think what has happened in terms of Tyrese Maxey in this conversation was these moments didn't exist because you're looking at a 7th seed, right? And so while Anthony Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finished atop the Western Conference, because of the injury to Joel Embiid, there were some questions about how much could Tyrese Maxey carry on his own. But you're absolutely right, Greeny. If this turns out to be the pivotal moment in this series, we'll never live it down.
It's amazing. This is a
So, okay, I wanted to talk about this because we just had a video yesterday about who can be the face of the league. Does the NBA need a face of the league? And we, kind of went down and unpacked all that. And so I thought this was a really interesting topic now because Tyrese Maxey checks off a lot of boxes. His game is incredibly unique. We talked about how your game has to jump off the screen and be really, really exciting. Whether it's Steph Curry shooting logo threes, LeBron James just being so physically dominant. And this is what some of the other players, that could potentially be, face of the league. And to be clear, I don't think there was ever just one single face of the league. So I don't think it's like if Tyrese Maxey is the face of the league, that it doesn't mean that now, Wemby's not a face of the league or Shai's not, a face of the league. But his game is very exciting to watch because the dude runs like 100 miles per hour. I mean, he is so lightning quick, and it almost makes you like nervous at times because I think he's just gonna get hurt, like his knees are gonna explode. But so his game is really exciting. His shooting is getting also exciting. Like that, his threes, especially in this game, is what were so like unbelievable that he was just making these dagger shots. So that's that part. 2, now I said he's also smaller, which also makes him relatable. And by him being more relatable, more people connect with him, of course. And that is the problem why some of these really big, tall, strong players don't always, even though they're amazing, they don't always get the same level of connection because they don't see themselves in them. That's why people love Steph Curry so much, because it was like, oh, I will never be as big as LeBron James or Shaquille O'Neal, but like, Steph is kind of like an everyman, even though he's still like 6'3" or whatever, 6'2", whatever how high he is. And, and he just shoots. Like, I can learn to shoot. Like, I can do that. I can't learn to be 7 feet tall. So that has it going for him. He's American born. Hate it or love it, that's the reality, right? He speaks crystal clear English. That's just the reality. There's no, go look at the Jokic commercials or any of these other commercials. It's like, they can be funny and in like a Borat kind of a way, but it's like, it's just different. It lands differently. And I am not I'm not saying that you can only be U.S. born to be the face of the league, but let's face it, it's the National Basketball Association. It definitely helps being born in the U.S. and speaking and talking like the vast majority of the people who are watching the NBA in the U.S. He also plays for Philadelphia, which is a major, massive market. That also matters. It's harder to be the face of the league when you're in a small market, which some of these other guys who are up and coming, they're in a smaller market, whether it's OKC, Minnesota. So I think it's really interesting. I think, there are some viable options of who's going to be the face of the league. And I argued that the NBA should try to get away from this idea of having a face of the league. But, right now you have Wembanyama eventually, because he's still a little too young. You have SGA. I don't know if Chet Holmgren can be the face of the league. I mean, I guess technically it depends how much he excels. Anthony Edwards. So there are definitely these options, but the biggest thing too that Tyrese Maxey has, probably more than any of these other players, is the likability factor. It's not to say that some of these other players aren't likable, but Tyrese Maxey is incredibly infectious. He's always smiling, always happy. He doesn't talk trash. He's not jawing at other players. He tried to help up. Like what's his face got fouled, Jalen Brunson, and he went to go help him up, and Jalen Brunson was like, no, I don't want that. Like, so he even is coming from this more likability factor. His jersey's already top 10 in sales. He was 9 overall, which is amazing. He's 23 years old and he really hasn't done much of anything. He just started doing stuff now. He's ascending, and he's not on a great 76ers team with Joel Embiid, who just won the MVP. So for him to be able to ascend like this is pretty remarkable, very remarkable. So if he can continue to have playoff success and maybe even come back down this series, but even if it's not this series, but future playoffs, because I think that's what kind of took some of the win from Luka's sales, and I mean sales as in SAILS, was that he kind of hit the ground running, was having these dominant playoff performances, all of this, and then kind of went to a grinding halt. And the problem is that he is in Dallas, which I know Dallas is a major city, but in terms of basketball, it's not New York, it's not Philadelphia, it's not LA, it doesn't land as much. It's a little bit more insulated, and that's kind of the problem with Wembanyama and San Antonio. And then also I've argued that I don't think Luka is likable enough because he is always getting in fights, arguing, getting the technicals, and causing more trouble. He kind of has, as someone wrote in the comments, which I agree, obviously a significantly better player, especially offensively, but he's more Draymond Green than Steph Curry or LeBron James, and from like a public perception of him, and the way how he can antagonize. Luka's probably more built for the more villain role, so to speak, which I think he welcomes. That's why he yells at the fans and the GMs and the players and the refs. Like he welcomes that. He welcomes that. And the league also, it's fun to have that too. And again, I'm a huge Luka fan, but I just think with Tyrese Maxey, the biggest thing he has going for him is obviously he's a great player and he's only 23. He just turned 23 and he's ascending, but he has that along with the likability factor, which is what Steph Curry had. Right? It's Tyrese Maxey especially is the type of player that moms and dads are like, watch him, watch what he does. Right? That's what they did with Steph. They're like, they want their children to emulate them, emulate someone like a Tyrese Maxey, like a Steph Curry. They're not saying, oh, I want you to look like Luka, who's barking at the refs and getting technicals in, tie games. That's not what they want. And Wembanyama and even Chet Holmgren, it's hard to be like, look at Chet, look at Wembanyama. They're 12 feet tall. It's just harder to connect with. And again, Wembanyama is unbelievable, and so is Chet. I'm having an absolute blast to watch him. And I think the other question about the face of the league is how do we really drive this, right? All the reasons that I mapped out before, but it's like, is it the younger fans who are the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? Or is it the people in their 30s, the 40s, the 50s? It's like, where who is responsible for that? Who is when Tyrese Maxey has, top 10 jersey sales, it's like, who's buying these jerseys? Is it parents for their kids? Are kids saying, I want a Tyrese Maxey jersey? Because that's what we always talked about with Steph Curry when he ascended. It was like the kids love him. Parents love him. The random moms around the world love him. And that matters. That really does add to it. So I just think that the sky is the limit for Maxey. He's just an incredibly exciting player to watch. His athleticism and his speed is reminiscent of Russell Westbrook to me, but the massive difference is the likability, the major market, and he's actually a good offensive player. And we know you have to be good at the random fans, the 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they don't care about triple doubles like that. They're not like, well, he had 9, 10, 11 assists. No, it's putting up 46 points in an elimination game, knocking down logo threes, going sprinting the length of the court for a crazy layup and getting it, and while doing it with an ear-to-ear smile on his face. It's just that's what he has going for him. And it's hard to see some of these other players. And again, like I love SGA tremendously, but he's more of like a quiet person. On the court at least. Like he is all business, which I love, would absolutely love to have him be the leader of, you know, any team that I'm a fan of. But it doesn't always translate, you know, when you're at home watching it and when you're trying to say who's the face of the league. You need that charisma, you need that personality. You need to smile. I don't know if I've ever even seen SGA smile. So I don't know. You know, it's really it's an interesting question to me, but I think what this shows more than anything is that the league is in great hands, and that's what I find exciting. You got Tyrese Maxey, you got SGA, you got Wembanyama, you got you know, Chet Holmgren, you have Anthony Edwards, and then you have some of these people that are a little bit that people like to root against, whether it be Luka, whether it be even Jokic. Like Jokic seems to be split depending on where you are. People either love him or people say, you know, that he's the enemy. People love to root against Embiid. Like the league, people love to root against LeBron James for years. I feel like half the people who watched the finals for all those years were just trying to see if LeBron James was going to lose. So it's all of this, and I think there would be some really fascinating, interesting matchups if the Lukas of the world could get to the finals and the Maxies of the world could get to the finals, go head-to-head, battles between Wembanyama, SGA, Luka. Like, I just think that's what then builds this up, right? What helped build Steph Curry up was going head-to-head with the LeBron James and then beating him. It was, you know, like a David versus Goliath. Steph Curry's this tiny little dude relative to LeBron James who looks like he can lift up a house and throw it to the moon. So it's just, you know, you need these battles. It's exciting. And that's why, especially the Sixers and Tyrese Maxey doing it, it's helpful that he did it against the Knicks. You know, the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson is also surging. His stock is you know, higher than ever. If Tyrese Maxey did this against the Orlando Magic, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Indiana Pacers, I think it would probably be a little bit less hype. But the fact that it is New York and people are feeling New York, and New York's the number 2 seed and Jalen Brunson's been balling out, that also adds to it. Just like if Steph Curry won his first championship and it was against the Miami Heat and not LeBron James, you know, trying to go for his first, you know, championship in Cleveland, I think it would have, you know, brought it down a little bit. But that's why everything aligned perfectly for Steph. So it'll be curious to see where these things align for any of these other players, right? Because if Anthony Edwards gets MVP of the NBA Finals this year, it's like kind of like, okay, dude, they are going to double, triple, quadruple down to making him the face of the league. You know, if OKC ends up winning and it's like the youngest team ever, they are going to double, triple, quadruple down on Chet and SGA as being the 1-2 punch, you know, faces of the league. So fascinated to see where this all goes. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Who do you think the face of the league is, and what do you think about Tyrese Maxey? And do you even really know who Tyrese Maxey is, since he's really, truly just ascending this past season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.